But I think for us, the most important thing is how do we bring out the potential of Asian football? That I think is the most important. How do we do it in a very professional way, but also not forgetting the grassroots, not forgetting the amateur football, not only focusing on the professional side.
Asia is absolutely already a football powerhouse, and for me, the key point is, well, on what level is it? On what level isn't it? How do we need to improve? I think if we look at fan base, you've talked about it before, all the people watching today can Google it. You know, we are home to half the world's population and half its football fans. We see sponsors around the world clambering to communicate via both local and international assets with those fans. Many a sponsorship decision here, but also in Europe, is based on perceived value in Asia. We see international clubs coming out here to build their fan base. We see international events.
In Malaysia, the domestic consumption of local football is 4 times higher the broadcast viewership of the English Premier League or any European match. The highest TV audience recorded in any content on TV in Malaysia is a Malaysian national football team match. So I would argue the consideration that we are all looking Europe. I suppose maybe he is, but mass Asia is Asian, and they are domestic support.
I agree on the value add now more than ever. There is capital flowing around. It surprised me as well, to be honest, because we all operated under worst case assumptions the first 3 months of COVID, and that's how we prepare for the future. I think we're all on this panel, especially used to doing that. But then I was very, very surprised at how much capital is flowing, and as you said, it is more important now than ever. Because it's not as much capital, that the capital is value add, and that you really choose your partners wisely. But I would say that I am an optimist within my pessimism, because I do think that in the short term it's going to burn, and unfortunately there are going to be some companies that struggle, and even then hopefully there are going to be creative ways to work together as an investment community, just to try and work together. And for me, I look at 7 to 10 years ahead, and I see teams becoming true lifestyle brands, not just communicating and engaging with the fan on the pitch, but working with them across the board in their other areas of their life. And I think that's why you have to look at the investment opportunities outside of the core sports space, because there's a lot of things that can be transformed out of that.
So I think from an investing standpoint, I think the next 24 to 36 months are going to present a lot of very interesting opportunities, because I think long term, nothing engages people the way sports does around their passion point. But in the short run, I think it's going to be very difficult. I think there's going to be real need for capital and expertise. So I think it's going to be a very interesting time to invest. The other thing I would just point out is that, organizations or companies that put on a lot of debt going into the pandemic are going to find themselves in very challenging positions. So I think, sources of capital, financial structuring, capability in a bull market actually really didn't matter, because there was so much money flushing around. But now who you're in business with, where your capital come from, what your expertise is, what your capability is, I think as things become more challenging, is going to become more important.
I've seen in my experience in the last 4 months a very active role of private equity approaching us as Aser to work on joint project of investment with the European football leagues, for example. So there, as George mentioned, there is a big need of capital, especially in the first period, in the next 6 months, 12 months. Many football clubs, many other, in particular even non-football, basketball and other secondary sports, really risk to be alive or not. So, but as every crisis, sometimes there are many opportunities, because this investment from private equity or professional can change also the game in a way that can bring more professionality and a much more strategic approach in a long term to turn around businesses that at the moment sometimes are not managed in a very long term way. And overall, I think is a benefit for the rights holder that this can become an opportunity and over time create much more value than what they would have done by themselves.
I think partnerships that will survive this storm are partnerships that have been built on the true word partnerships. And we've been talking about things like, you don't use the word sponsorship, right? So you say this is more than a sponsorship, it's a partnership. I think these are times that will test it. In fact, I put out a post recently where saying it's testing times for some, but there will be some who will actually stand the test of time. I think it's this word agility. Which partner has been a true partner right along the journey, right from the day you signed an agreement, and who've stuck to the true essence of what this word partnership entails? I think will very naturally stand the test of time.
It is going to take time to get back to the norm. This could be a 1-year process. It could be a 2-year process. It could be a 3-year process. But during that time, brands are going to have to select who are the best partners, where are they going to get the best return on investment, and who are the partners that are going to over-deliver. To me, that's going to be essential moving forward as it relates to continuing to build your business and in some cases protect your business.
If being a tech-forward property was not in your DNA previously, now is not the time to start fishing those waters. To us, technology is no substitute for community. There's no improvement in the technology space that will address the limitations of the technology. So we have to admit that it's we can talk to people around the globe in a way that we once couldn't. We can do virtual summits and things like this, but what we say and how we say it, how we act, how we engage, that's what matters most, I believe, to the fan base. On the technology side, we want to do things behind the scenes that help the partners emphasize the sense of community, the sense of security and safety that they're bringing to the table to allow fans to come back in a normal way.
I think given that the streaming, the media rights are getting now increasingly important, particular, because a lot of people are staying home. I think as a sponsor, I think what I'm going to see is that the whole media rights is going to be reset, not only because of new players coming, on the scene, like streaming platforms and social media platforms, also because sponsors like us are demanding more access to content that historically has been reserved or protected by broadcasters. So when we work with the likes of La Liga and the Premier League or FIFA and others, as a sponsor, we would expect more access to content. Again, I think that was already in process. I think it's just accelerated by this pandemic.
And I did want to comment on Maddalena's point about the opportunities for stadiums. I think that if you look at the structure of stadiums, there is no flexibility built in. So, for example, if you have a soccer stadium, it's very difficult to put an athletics track around that. And I think that the flexibility is going to have to come into the structure of the stadium, in how it moves, how it can be repurposed at short notice for different types of sports. Because I think that is going to be something that we look at, mainly because there's going to be the issue of value for money, but different sports have different requirements. And in that, your testing, your sanitation and social distancing are going to have different needs for different sports.
That could be a good opportunity for redesigning the outside zones of the stadium. As you know, outside the stadium there are up to 4 zones from the spectator arriving from the outside, and then up to the entering the stadium, and that can be an opportunity for reinventing and rethinking from an architectural point of view, as well as bringing new digital content so that the fan can be engaged before entering to the stadium. So the experience of the fans can start even before entering to the stadium.
We're seeing already that when people can be an active viewer, they stay longer. So if you look at what we do with the Spanish League in India, we have polls, we have interactive chat with commentators involved with viewers, and you see that if someone's involved in the chat, they listen for like 6 times longer. They stay active viewing, and it's not that sort of negative passive viewing that allows you to then go off and look at your phone and do other things. We want to try and keep people in the sporting environment. it's realistic to say they can be in the sporting environment but still doing other things. They can be chatting, they can be taking opinions, they can be voting, they can be betting, and that clearly is the direction of travel. And I think important that we see these initiatives with Twitch and with ourselves and with others as part of that journey.
And I think gaming as a whole has been underestimated for a while, right? So, I mean, when we talk about esports, I always say, and I spoke to traditional sports federations as an example, I always tell them, look, you need a gaming strategy first. Don't think about esports yet, right? Esports is an organized way on top of it. Think about your sport. Think about the basics of it. You need a gaming strategy. You need a game. And I mean it, every sport needs a game. That needs to be very right front and center of what they're doing. And it could be archery, it could be golf, it could be football, of course, who has it, but every sport needs a game. And everyone who went into this prepared kind of, had a good out. I mean, most of the racing stuff went to online competitions pretty fast. So obviously anything gaming, I would say, was the big winner of this. And esports is kind of the logical follower of it. We actually got people like Coca-Cola and Facebook involved in esports by creating these great stadium events because they made it physically touchable. They created an experience that is like traditional sports, actually.
What I see happening, at least from our side, is a willingness to work with the industry to solve a problem which is not specific to a right holder, to a sponsor, to a media partner, is a collective problem that together, collectively, we should be able to find a solution. In some cases, there might be contracts that need to be rediscussed because the offers don't exist anymore. So we have to have a conversation. But I think that the more important than a specific contract is we're all on this together, and we're trying to solve a problem that is bigger than everybody individually. And collaboration will be the key to find solutions.
For me, COVID has been the burning accelerator of digital transformation. I think it's basically anticipating and forcing, a lot of companies, businesses to change. I think there is a burning problem around, the volatility of the business model that sustains the entire sports industry. And definitely, there is a clear attempt to solve that and to find, other solutions and additional solutions that will make the industry more strong and stable.
Sí que creo que los datos forman parte del día a día de los clubes. También creo que queda mucho camino por recorrer, sobre todo a nivel formativo. Bueno, yo creo que desde un punto de vista conceptual es importante, por lo menos conceptual, no ni siquiera técnico, que dentro de los clubes haya personas preparadas para entender cuál es el potencial realmente de los datos. Es decir, no solamente de qué datos disponemos, sino, oye, con estos datos de los que disponemos o con estos que podemos conseguir, ¿qué puedo extraer para que sea beneficioso para mi equipo, ¿no?
Yo creo que el principal es la contextualización, porque se lo muestra el contexto, se lo trae el vídeo para mostrar un ejemplo de cuando ellos ha hecho algo mal hecho o un pase errado que no se va bien. Se lo muestras el porqué de la cosa, se hace más fácil.